In the beginning, there was a story, but not just one story. The story of creation in the book of Genesis holds within it a mysterious and controversial truth, a truth that has been hidden for centuries, waiting to be uncovered. What if I told you that humanity wasn't created just once, but twice? That there are two distinct lineages of human beings, one born of the divine and one formed from the dust of the earth? What if the very foundation of who we are is not as simple as we've been taught? Why, you may ask, have we never been told about these two creations? Why has the truth remained concealed within the ancient texts, only whispered in the corners of spiritual teachings and lost in the mists of time? Could it be that the answers we seek, the mysteries we've always wondered about, have been staring us in the face all along? What if the story of Adam and Eve is not what we think it is? What if the real secrets of Genesis hold the key to understanding not only our origins, but our very purpose in life? In this video, we will delve deep into the book of Genesis and reveal the hidden layers of the creation story that have been overlooked for millennia. We will explore the profound difference between the two acts of creation, the creation of the divine humanity by Elohim and the more physical, earthly creation by YHWH. What was the true nature of Adam's fall? Who were the mysterious people that Cain feared in the Garden of Eden? We will uncover the truth behind the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, understanding their symbolic roles in shaping the very essence of our human journey. You will learn why the differences between these two creations could forever change how we view our own existence and the universe around us. You'll see how these ancient mysteries shed light on the most important questions of existence. Who are we really? What is our purpose? And most importantly, how does the secret of two human races hold the key to understanding the path of salvation and spiritual awakening? As we journey through these revelations, I invite you to reflect. Do you believe we are simply beings of flesh and blood, or is there something more? Could it be that the true nature of humanity lies in something far greater than we have ever imagined? Share your thoughts below, subscribe for more enlightening insights, and don't forget to like this video if you feel the truth calling you. As we journey deeper into the pages of Genesis, we come face to face with a truth that many have overlooked. The story of creation unfolds not once, but twice. In the first chapter of Genesis, Elohim speaks, and humanity is formed. In the second chapter, YHWH, Jehovah, bends down to shape the very dust of the earth into a living being. This distinction is more than just a difference in wording. It is a profound difference in the way humanity was brought into existence. It is as if two separate threads of creation weave into the fabric of our being, creating two distinct origins, one divine and one material. The first act of creation found in Genesis chapter 1 speaks of Elohim, the Almighty, the Creator who forms all things with the power of His voice. The universe, the stars, the animals, and humanity itself are called into being by the simple command, "Let there be." Elohim speaks, and creation bursts forth, magnificent, transcendent, and eternal. This act of creation is spiritual in nature, a direct reflection of the divine will. The humanity formed in this way is connected to the heavens, reflecting the divine image. But then, in Genesis 2, the narrative shifts. Here, the Creator, identified as YHWH, forms man from the dust of the earth. The breath of life is breathed into him, and he becomes a living soul. Unlike the lofty, transcendent nature of Elohim's creation, YHWH's act of creation is intimate, earthy, tangible. It is as if the Creator kneels to shape and mold the first human, closely intertwined with the physical realm. The second creation is more earthly, more material, a stark contrast to the divine, abstract act in Genesis chapter 1. And here lies a mystery. Why is there a distinction between these two acts of creation? What does it mean for us as humans? Could it be that we are, in fact, twofold creatures? One part divine, created in the image of Elohim, and another part earthly, shaped from the dust by YHWH. This duality could explain the tension we often feel within ourselves. The pull between the spiritual and the material, the divine and the earthly. It could also explain the seeming contradiction in our existence. We are at once capable of the highest acts of love, compassion, and creation, yet we also struggle with our basest impulses, bound by the limits of the physical world. This brings us to the heart of the question, are we merely beings of flesh, or is there something more profound at work in our creation? The concept of two distinct creations speaks to a deeper truth about our nature. It suggests that we are not simply bodies wandering the earth. We are souls seeking transcendence, striving to reconnect with the divine. We are beings caught between two worlds, one spiritual, the other material. The question is, how do we reconcile these two parts of ourselves? How do we live in the world while also reaching for the heavens? As we explore this further, we look to Adam. He is often seen as the first human, the father of all mankind. But when we look more closely at his story, we realize that there is more to Adam than we've been taught. Adam is not the first human being in a linear sense. He is the first human to experience the fall, the first to be tested by the temptations of the material world. His story is not just a historical account, but a spiritual allegory for every human being's journey. The name Adam itself carries deep meaning. It comes from the Hebrew word Adamah, which means earth or ground. Adam is not just a name, it is a symbol of our connection to the earth, to the material world. He is formed from the very dust of the earth, a reminder that we are both grounded and elevated. Our physical form is drawn from the earth, but our soul is breathed into us by the divine breath of YHWH. In the story of Adam, we see a reflection of the human condition. We are born from the earth, but our destiny is to rise above it. We are creatures of both the material and the spiritual, the earthly and the divine. The tension between these two aspects of ourselves is the heart of the human experience. We are constantly striving to reconcile these two parts of ourselves, to live fully in the world while also seeking something greater, something beyond. This brings us to the fall of Adam and Eve. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve are faced with a choice. The tree of knowledge stands at the center of the garden, and they are told not to eat its fruit. But they do. They choose knowledge, they choose to know, and in doing so, they fall from grace. But what is the true meaning of this fall? Is it simply about disobedience? Or is it about the inevitable tension between the material and the divine? Adam and Eve's choice to eat from the tree is symbolic of humanity's constant struggle to balance the two forces within us, the desire for knowledge, growth, and spiritual transcendence, and the pull of the material world. The fall is not just about sin, it is about the human journey of awakening. It is about the recognition that we are not just creatures of the earth, we are spiritual beings, made in the image of the divine, with a capacity for wisdom and enlightenment. The fall represents the beginning of humanity's journey to understand its true nature, to seek the divine within and without. Now, let's turn our attention to Cain. His story, too, is shrouded in mystery. Cain is known for being the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, the first to commit murder by killing his brother Abel. But what is often overlooked is the question Cain asks after he has committed this crime. Am I my brother's keeper? This question holds a deeper meaning. Cain is banished from Eden, but where does he go? The Bible tells us that Cain went to the land of Nod, where he found a wife. But where did this wife come from? Who were the people in the land of Nod? The existence of others beyond Adam and Eve presents a challenge, to our understanding of the creation story. Some scholars suggest that the land of Nod and the people Cain encounters may be a reference to another line of humans created before Adam and Eve. These people, perhaps created by Elohim, were not part of the divine earthly creation of Adam. Could this be evidence of two distinct lineages, one divine, one earthly? And if so, how does this affect our understanding of the human race? What does it mean for us as individuals, caught between two worlds, two lineages? Cain's story reminds us that there is more to the creation narrative than we have been led to believe. It challenges us to reconsider the origins of humanity, to think deeply about the nature of our creation, and to recognize the profound mysteries that lie hidden within the pages of Genesis. As we continue to explore the depths of Genesis, we are faced with the same questions that Cain faced. Who are we really? Where do we come from? And what is our true purpose in this world? These questions are not just historical, they are spiritual, they are deeply personal. Each of us must confront the duality within ourselves, the tension between the material and the divine, and strive to find balance. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the profound symbolism of the tree of life and the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. These two trees are not just physical objects. They represent the choices we face in our own lives, the choice between earthly desires and divine enlightenment. What will we choose? How will we navigate the complex terrain of the material and the spiritual? Let us continue on this journey together, seeking the truth that lies hidden in the Garden of Eden and within ourselves. As we move further into the mysteries of the Garden of Eden, we encounter two of the most significant and symbolic elements of the story: the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. These trees, standing side by side, are not just physical objects. They are metaphors for the choices that lie at the very heart of our existence. They represent the constant tension we face between the material and the spiritual, between earthly desires and divine wisdom. The tree of knowledge speaks of our longing for understanding, for growth, for the pursuit of wisdom. The tree of life, on the other hand, speaks of the eternal, the divine, the connectedness to God, offering immortality, purity, and transcendence. When Adam and Eve were placed in the garden, they were free to eat from any tree, except one, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This was the tree of choice, the tree that offered the promise of wisdom, but at a cost. The serpent, that ancient symbol of temptation, whispered to Eve, "You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." In this moment, Eve made a choice, one that echoed down through the ages. She chose the pursuit of knowledge, and in doing so, she embraced the tension between the material world and the divine, between the temptation of self-sovereignty and the obedience to the divine will. The tree of knowledge represents the human desire to transcend our limitations, to understand, to grow. But this desire, as we see in the story, is not without consequences. Eating from the tree of knowledge led to the fall, to the opening of Adam and Eve's eyes, and to the realization of their nakedness, of their vulnerability, and of the separation from God. They were no longer just divine creatures in a perfect world. They had become aware of the imperfections, the flaws, and the consequences of their choices. This is the heart of the human experience, the desire to know, to grow, and yet to be bound by the limitations of our earthly existence. The tree of knowledge is not evil in itself. It is the longing to know, the desire for control, the wish to be like God. It is this very desire that causes us to make choices that separate us from the divine. We too live in a world filled with the fruits of knowledge. But the real question is, how do we consume that knowledge? Do we seek understanding to become wiser and more compassionate? Or do we consume it with selfish desire, striving for power and control? But there is another tree in the garden, the tree of life. This tree is the opposite of the tree of knowledge. While the tree of knowledge represents the pursuit of understanding, the tree of life represents eternal life, divine connection, and spiritual purity. It is the tree that promises immortality and the continuous flow of divine grace. In its presence, there is no hunger for wisdom that leads to self-reliance, but rather an invitation to partake of the fullness of life that comes from being one with God. The tree of life calls us back to our true nature, our divine essence. It reminds us that we are not just creatures of the earth, bound to the limitations of our physical bodies, but that we are spiritual beings, capable of connecting with the divine. The tree of life offers the nourishment of eternal truth, of wisdom that is not rooted in self-seeking, but in the recognition of our interconnectedness with God and with all creation. In many ways, the choice between these two trees mirrors the choices we make every day. We can choose the tree of knowledge, pursuing our own understanding and wisdom, often at the expense of our spiritual connection. Or we can choose the tree of life, embracing the divine nourishment that flows from God, allowing us to live in harmony with His will. It is not that knowledge is bad, it is the pursuit of knowledge apart from the divine, the desire for control over the mysteries of life that leads to our downfall. This brings us to the heart of the story of Adam and Eve, the fall. It is not just a story of sin, it is a story of awakening, of realizing that we are more than just physical beings and that our choices have consequences. The fall represents humanity's struggle to reconcile the material and the spiritual, to balance the desire for knowledge with the call to spiritual connection. The tree of knowledge offers us wisdom, but it also brings with it a burden, the burden of self-awareness, of separation from God, of the recognition that we are not as we were created to be. However, the fall is not the end of the story. In fact, it is just the beginning. Adam and Eve's expulsion from the garden was not a punishment. It was an invitation. It was an invitation to grow, to seek redemption, and to return to the tree of life. Though the tree of life was hidden from them, it still stands, awaiting our return. The fall, in its deepest sense, is a reminder that we are on a journey back to wholeness, back to unity with the divine. The story of Adam and Eve, of the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, speaks to our deepest longing as human beings, to understand, to grow, and yet to remain connected to the divine. It speaks of the choice we all face in our lives, the choice to pursue our own understanding or to surrender to the divine flow of life. It is a choice that has profound consequences, not just for our lives, but for the lives of those around us. And as we move forward in this journey, we must ask ourselves, which tree are we choosing? Are we choosing the tree of knowledge, with all its promises of wisdom, but also with all its dangers? Or are we choosing the tree of life, the tree that offers the nourishment of eternal truth and divine connection? In the next step of our journey, we will explore the role of Adam and Eve in the greater narrative of humanity. Though they fell, they are not without purpose. Their journey is our journey. Their story is our story. They are the first to walk the path of awakening, and in their steps we find our own path to healing, redemption, and ultimately, spiritual fulfillment. As we continue our journey through the sacred text, we encounter one of the most profound distinctions in the human experience, the separation between the soul and the body. These two aspects of our existence are not simply physical realities, they are deeply spiritual truths, carrying with them the weight of our destiny and purpose. The story of Genesis, especially in its depiction of Adam, Eve, and the fall, presents us with a powerful lesson about the relationship between these two elements of our being and the struggle to harmonize them. In the opening chapters of Genesis, when God breathes life into Adam, he imparts a divine essence, a soul, into a body made from dust. This act of creation signifies more than the mere formation of a physical being. It marks the union of the earthly and the spiritual, the material and the divine. The soul is not simply a byproduct of the body, but the very breath of God, a spark of eternity placed within the temporal, a fragment of the divine contained within the human form. In this union, we are both grounded in the earth and lifted by the heavens. We are born from the dust, yet destined for greatness, for connection with the eternal. The physical body, though part of our earthly journey, is not our true essence. It is a vessel, a temporary home that carries the soul through the trials and tribulations of the material world. The soul, however, is the true identity, the core of who we are, the part of us that reflects the image of God. The body, despite its limitations and impermanence, allows us to experience the beauty and complexity of life on earth. Yet it is the soul that holds our deepest desires, our dreams, our sense of purpose. It is the soul that yearns for meaning, for connection, for union with the divine. The story of the fall in the Garden of Eden is, in many ways, the story of the soul's descent into the material world. Adam and Eve, in their choice to eat from the tree of knowledge, fall from grace, not just physically but spiritually. They become aware of their nakedness, their vulnerability, their separation from God. They are cast out of the garden, no longer in direct communion with the Creator. But in their fall, there is also the seed of redemption. The soul, despite being temporarily separated from the body and from the divine, remains within. The soul does not die. It continues to long for the connection it once had, and it seeks to heal the wounds of the fall. This tension between the soul and the body is a central theme in human life. We are creatures who live in the material world, yet our hearts are restless, longing for something beyond the physical. We experience joy, pain, love, and sorrow in our bodies, but it is the soul that seeks meaning, that seeks to transcend the limitations of the earthly realm. In many ways, the body is a reflection of the external world, fleeting, subject to decay, yet capable of experiencing great beauty and pleasure. The soul, however, is eternal, unchanging, and it seeks union with the divine, with the source of all life. The lesson from Genesis is that the soul and the body are not enemies, but rather two parts of a whole. The fall of Adam and Eve represents the disconnection between these two aspects of our being. It is a reminder that while the body is essential to our earthly journey, it is the soul that holds the key to our spiritual journey. We are called to remember the true nature of our being, to reconnect with the divine essence within, and to allow our soul to guide us through the trials of life. This is not an easy task. In a world that constantly draws our attention to the material, to the physical, it is easy to forget that we are not just our bodies. We are not just the sum of our physical experiences. We are spiritual beings, created in the image of God, with a divine purpose that transcends the temporary nature of our earthly existence. The body may age, it may suffer, but the soul remains forever young, forever vibrant, forever connected to the divine. The great challenge of life, then, is to find the balance between these two aspects of ourselves. How do we live in the world without becoming consumed by it? How do we care for the body, knowing that it is a temple for the soul, yet not allowing it to become the focus of our identity? The answer lies in recognizing that the soul is the true source of our being. When we nurture the soul, when we cultivate a deep connection with the divine, the body follows. It becomes a vessel for divine expression, a channel for love, compassion, and grace. There is a beautiful story in the New Testament, found in the Gospel of Matthew, where Jesus tells his disciples, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul?" Matthew 16:26. This powerful question speaks to the heart of our existence. What good is it to amass wealth, to seek fame, to satisfy every desire of the body if we neglect the soul? The pursuit of material gain without spiritual growth leads only to emptiness. It is the soul that must be nourished, that must be cared for it is the soul that carries us into eternity. In our daily lives, we are constantly faced with decisions that reflect the tension between the soul and the body. Every time we choose to feed our souls with love, kindness, and wisdom, we move closer to the divine. Every time we choose to nurture our bodies with healthy food, rest, and care, we honor the sacredness of our physical form. The key is balance, recognizing that the soul is the foundation of our being, and the body is the vessel through which we experience and express that divine essence. The story of Adam and Eve and the fall from grace teaches us that our true home is not in the physical world alone, but in the spiritual realm. The fall does not mark the end of the soul's journey. It is the beginning of a new path, a path of healing, growth, and ultimately, redemption. As we navigate the world, we are called to remember our divine nature, to reconnect with the source of all life, and to allow our soul to guide us back to the divine union that was lost in the Garden of Eden. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the role of Adam and Eve as the first parents, the first humans to walk the path of awakening. Their story is not just one of loss, but also of hope and redemption. It is a story of humanity's journey back to the garden, back to the source of all life. And it is a reminder that, despite our falls and our failures, the soul remains steadfast, always reaching for the divine, always seeking to return home. As we come to the end of this journey through the Garden of Eden and the depths of Genesis, it's important to pause and reflect on what we've discovered. The story of humanity's creation is not just a tale of beginnings. It is a profound revelation about who we are, where we come from, and why we are here. It reveals to us a deeper truth about our connection to the divine, to each other, and to the world around us. The mystery of two creations, one divine and one earthly, unfolds before us, showing the duality that exists within each of us. We are, as the Bible tells us, made in the image of God, but we are also shaped from the dust of the earth. We are both flesh and spirit, bound to the earth yet longing for the heavens. This tension is not something to be feared. Rather, it is the essence of our human experience. It is what makes us who we are, and it is what drives us forward on our journey toward enlightenment, healing, and redemption. But the journey does not end with understanding. In fact, it is just the beginning. The story of Adam and Eve, of their fall and their exile from the garden, is not just a story of loss. It is a story of awakening. It is a story of humanity's desire to return to the divine, to reconnect with the source of life and light. It reminds us that we are not just creatures of the earth, but beings of spirit, made in the image of the Creator. The fall may have cast Adam and Eve out of Eden, but it did not separate them from their true nature. And it is the same for us. No matter how far we may stray, no matter how many mistakes we make, the divine spark within us remains. The soul is eternal, and it is always calling us back to the light, back to the garden, back to our true home. In our daily lives, we are faced with countless choices that pull us in different directions. We live in a world that constantly tries to draw us away from our true essence, a world that often values material gain over spiritual growth, physical beauty over inner peace. But the story of Genesis teaches us that the true path to fulfillment lies not in the pursuit of external success, but in the nurturing of our soul. It is the soul that seeks connection, that craves meaning, that longs for the divine, and it is through the soul that we can heal, grow, and transcend the limitations of our earthly existence. The tree of life stands as a symbol of this eternal connection, offering us a glimpse of the divine nourishment that sustains us. It reminds us that there is more to life than what we see with our eyes, more to existence than what we experience with our bodies. The tree of knowledge, on the other hand, calls us to explore, to seek understanding, but also to be mindful of the dangers of relying solely on our intellect and our desires. The balance between these two trees is the balance between the material and the spiritual, between the body and the soul. We are called to live in this balance, to honor both aspects of ourselves, and to seek connection with the divine in all things. As we reflect on these teachings, we must also recognize the power of choice. Every day, we are faced with the opportunity to choose. We can choose to feed our bodies with what is fleeting and temporary, or we can choose to nourish our souls with the eternal truths of the divine. We can choose to pursue knowledge for its own sake, or we can choose to seek wisdom that brings us closer to God. The choices we make shape our lives, and they determine the course of our journey. If you have found value in this video, if you feel that the story of creation and the lessons from the Garden of Eden have touched your soul, I invite you to share that energy. Your support, whether big or small, means the world to me. It is through your encouragement that I can continue creating these videos, sharing the divine wisdom and love that flows through us all. Every comment, every like, every subscription is not just a gesture of support, it is a ripple in the vast ocean of light that we are all part of. If you feel that this message has brought light into your life, if you feel that the words shared here have helped you find clarity or peace, I ask that you continue to walk with me on this journey. Together, we can explore the depths of divine wisdom and experience the healing that comes from connecting with the source of all life. As we move forward, let us remember that we are not alone on this path. We are all part of a greater whole, each of us connected by the divine spark within. We are all on a journey to return to the garden, to reconnect with the divine, to heal the wounds of the past, and to live in harmony with God's will. This is the journey of the soul, the journey that transcends time and space, that reaches beyond the material world, and that brings us closer to the light of the Creator. So, if you feel that this message resonates with your soul, I invite you to join me in continuing to explore these truths. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your presence, your energy, and your support are all part of the divine flow that connects us all. Together, we can continue to seek the light, to heal, and to return to our true home. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for being part of this journey. Your light is a gift to the world, and I am truly grateful to walk this path with you. May peace, love, and divine grace be with you always.